Alright, this is a gateway here. Model number is... Gateways have really weird model numbers. This is a W323-UI1. I think it's real stupid to have put an I and a 1 right next to each other in a model number, but... This has a bad power jack. How do I know that? Well, I'll show you. This is the power cord that came with the thing. And what you do with the power cord, or what you do if you want to see if a power jack is bad, is you take the power cord, you plug it in, and you test the voltage from the power cord. You just use a regular voltmeter. And what you want to test for is voltage. I'm going to put the meter at 20 volts. And you take the tip, the power jack tip. You hold your black, your negative on the outside of the tip. And you put the red in the hole on the inside of the tip. Be very careful not to touch the red and the black and the tips together, otherwise it'll create a short circuit. Now you can't see it probably on that video. Oh, there you can. Can you guys read what that number is there? This is just a test if I'm coming through clear. What number was that? Yes, 19 volts. Just about 19 volts. So we know the power adapter works. Now, just to make sure, you could take the power adapter and kind of bend it around a little bit and make sure that it's making a good connection. Let's see. I'm going to do that right now. Okay, I'm still getting 19 volts, and I'm moving the power adapter around a little bit, jiggling it around, making sure that there's no crimps in the wire. Okay, even though I jiggle it around, it's still moving around at 19 volts, so we know the tip is good. A lot of times, you know, the tip will break, like right in this area here, and you won't get that 19 volts after you do that, after it's broken. So instead of just taking the whole computer apart and finding out it has a perfectly good power jack, test the power adapter first. Now we know the power adapter works. That leaves us with the power jack. Alright, what I like to do now is take the computer, probably a good idea to take the battery out at this point. And I take like a toothpick. This is another thing I do when the customers here. I take a toothpick and then I start just pushing it in the hole where the power adapter is to see if the tip is bad. That's one way you could test it too. Just to see if the tip is jiggling around inside that hole there. If it's really loose or the power jack's completely non-existent, then you kind of know what you're dealing with. Okay, sorry guys, I'm just adjusting my Ustream for 1 second. Okay, back. Alright, so we know it's a bad power jack. I mean, another way you could test it is, you know, plug in your power adapter. Just plug it into the side and see if the battery light lights up, you know, see if it's actually getting any power to it. See if you could turn it on without the battery in it. This one, I'm pressing the power with no battery, nothing. Okay, enough with the diagnostics. Let's get into how to fix this baby. Okay, with laptops, what I like to do is first take the battery out. Another thing I do before I do anything, if I'm going to put it upside down, I think it's not polite to scratch the heck out of a customer's laptop. So I put, this is a piece of foam that you get when you buy a new motherboard, that little square piece that comes in the box. They're perfect for this. You just put the laptop on top of that so you're not scratching it. And okay, what we're going to do now is start taking stuff out of the bottom. See, I know, or I think I know, from working on this type of laptop that you really got to get in there. I mean, the power jacks are usually in a spot where it's almost impossible to get to them without taking everything apart. So I just start taking stuff out, like all the devices in the laptop I take out. So let's take the hard drive out. Hard drive is held in by these two screws. And what I do, and this is just not for beginners, I guess, guys, but when I take screws out, I note in my mind what color they are, how long they are, and where they go. This is a little baby screw. It's silver, and I know it came out of the laptop case, which is also silver. So maybe I could just match it up with that when I put them off to the side. Two screws. Pull them out. It just pops right up. Pulls out. And then maybe I could take these two screws and put it with the hard drive and then put that off to the side. You know, this is probably RAM. Yep, there's the RAM. I could put the screw that came with the RAM, put that on top there. So I have that screw together with that. Pull the RAM out, put that off to the side. What do we got down here? Probably wireless card. Wireless card. Pop that wireless card out. Whoop. And then there's the two little antennas on top of the wireless card. Right here. They just pop right off. It's easy. So you just pop those wires off. One, two. They're just the antennas that go up to usually through the screen. I like to unplug them because when I'm working on a screen, if you try to take the screen off and these are still plugged in, the screen's not going to be able to come off right. Take out the wireless card. Just let those wires hang for now. It's fine. Then we got a big plate here. Let's just take that off. This is real easy. You're just unscrewing the plates, all the plates on the bottom of the machine to get all the accessories out first. All the devices. And that screw just jumped away from me. So did that one. Yep, no screws in there. Okay, now if you look under that last plate I took out, and this is a nice feature for a laptop. The last plate I took off, this is just normal unscrewing, guys, nothing fancy here yet. This has the whole processor and fan in there. I like to take that out too, just because I have access to it right now. Let's get it out of there, because we're going to have to get to the motherboard, and we don't want any junk stuck to the motherboard that's going to stop us from really getting the job done fast. So these 4 screws are the heat sink. When you're taking off a heat sink, it's good to do it like you take a tire off, like a little bit at a time on each corner, because this is putting pressure on the processor. And if you put pressure on the processor too hard in one corner, you could damage the processor. So do it like a crisscross pattern, a few turns each, until these screws are completely loose. And then you're going to see the CPU fan here has a connector. You can just pull the CPU fan out. Take the whole heatsink off. Now you got the processor sitting right there. You can hit the processor with one turn here. There's a little locking mechanism on these laptop processors. You turn it one way, it unlocks it, and then you can easily just take it right out. Don't try to pull it out unless you unlock it first. There's a little picture right here that tells you if it's locked or unlocked, so that you can go by that. Yeah, Acid Burns in the chat room says it's a great time to clean the process or the heatsink and CPU fan. Definitely. In fact, I'll show you what I do right now. You take a can of compressed air. You know, I take this outside usually, and I'm going to get the screws out of the way from the heatsink. And you just kind of blast it right in the heatsink, right in the coil there. All clean. So you blow the air right in there, blow all the dust out. Keep that nice and clean. By the way, these are the two screwdrivers I use. They are little. They're tiny screwdrivers. They used to be this long. And this comes in that $10 screwdriver set that I sent to Newbrit in the beginning of Podnuts Daily for the contest. They're like $10. These are my and these two actually broke. They used to be this long, but they broke. But I like them so much better since they broke. They're real easy to handle. It's just one of the Phillips head and one of the straight heads. And they're like my favorite laptop screwdrivers. Use them for everything. Laptops. Okay, now that we got all the components out of the bottom, what I like to do now is get the screen out of the way. That's my next objective, because I'm going to basically have to unsandwich the top part of the computer here from the bottom part to get the motherboard out. And the screen is delicate. I don't want to damage it, so I want it out of the picture right now. The normal way to get screens off, here's a little trick. This is how you, not really a trick, but this is what you're going to learn the hard way if somebody doesn't tell you. See this plate right at the top of the computer here? That plate usually, if you pops off, and under there are the screws to unscrew the screen, usually. And that's also the way to get to the keyboard. Some of you might be wondering how to get a keyboard off. This plate is the key. If you're replacing a screen or keyboard, I mean the whole top part of the screen, if you're replacing this whole top part of the screen, if you're replacing just a screen, you don't have to take any of this stuff off that I just did, just for the screen. But if you're replacing the whole screen with the frame, or you want to get the screen off, this is the key, this plate here. Now, in Dell, a lot of Dells, you just put the screwdriver here, pop it up, and this whole plate comes off. But in gateways, I believe it's screwed in at the bottom. So don't try to pry it off until you're sure all of the screws that are screwing it in out of the bottom are taken off. And I'm looking here. Wow. This laptop has no screws in it. Somebody had already taken this apart. It definitely wasn't me. This laptop has no screws in it. Wow. Okay. Well, the three that are holding the plate on are still here, actually, but there's no screws holding the bottom of this laptop together. It's pretty nasty. There's three little screws there, and I believe they are the screws that are holding the plate on. See, a lot of times when you get a laptop from a customer that has no screws in it, that means they tried to fix it, and that's dangerous. Now be careful when you pry this this piece off that you don't mess up the keyboard. It should kind of give you like a little snap, and then you can kind of just put your screwdriver in and, you know, delicately start prying the thing off. There we go. Sometimes there's ribbon cables connected to it, like right here, so don't yank that baby. Just pull it off slow, unattach the ribbon cable. Pull that out. Now we have this piece freely off. Now that's the key to so many things. The keyboard now usually will just unscrew from here and here. This one doesn't have any screws in it and comes right off. Also attached by a ribbon cable, which you delicately have to pull, unattach and pull off. Okay, now what do we got? You just kind of got to go with what you see. Well, we have this ribbon cable that's not going to nowhere now. That's attached right to the motherboard. That's okay for now. Then we have the video cord. The video cord goes right to the screen. No, that's not the video cord. I don't know what that is, actually. But the video VGA connector's right here. So anyway, and then you got your wireless down here. So you have 3 cables coming off the screen. Unattach them because we want to get the screen off. That's our main objective right now, to get the screen out of the picture. Unattach those 2 connectors. And now I'm just pulling the wireless cables from what I did earlier out. And they should come out through this hole here. No, it's kind of hard to see with this crappy camera. I don't know if I could focus it any better. Let me try. That's worse. Might be a little better. Don't worry, William. I'm recording this in HD on another separate camera, so. Ben's doing a show. Nevin's doing a show at 3 p.m. Nevin, I did not know that, man. I'm sorry. I'll try to finish up by then, all right? Okay, now at this point, guys, I'm just kind of unattaching ribbon cables because I'm going to be taking stuff apart and I don't want the ribbon cables to break. So just unattaching some ribbon cables here. That's loose now. Might as well take this one off now. This one's loose now. Okay, now let's get this screen off. We got all these connectors that are all going to the screen. Let's get the screen off now. Just flip it. Screens are usually screwed in from the bottom. And since this one has no screws left in it, it should pop right off. Let's see. And it's not. So there must be some other things holding this in. Maybe under here. Aha! There's a connector there. There's a connector there. These go over the hinges, and it reveals 2 hidden screws. This is actually great that happened. If I would have tried to force the screen off, I would have broke something. That's the golden rule on laptops. If you have to force it, if you have to force something, you're not doing it right. Now, flip the screen up. Hold up. There it goes. Now the screen's out of the picture. Okay? This is going to be an interesting job, seeing how this guy took all the screws out of the bottom of his computer already. But let's see what we got here. All right, now we're left with this and this. We want to get this off of this. So we got to see if there's any screws holding that on, and there is. These here. See, I could already tell what happened. He didn't know. He tried to fix it himself. He didn't know that, like I talked about earlier, this bar is the key to getting everything apart. He didn't take this off. He unscrewed every screw from the bottom of the computer and gave up because he couldn't get the thing apart. So that's what happened. So I'm taking the remaining screws out of here, putting them all in a pile that are kind of in the same area, so I know that where they go back. There's one screw here. This guy's a little smaller than the other screws, but longer. So I'll put that in a separate spot so I know where it goes without it. And then I take a look and see if there's any other screws holding this thing together. And there is one here, which the guy didn't know how to take out. Okay, that's the same size as those. Anything else? Yeah, there's another one under the plate that I'm sure he missed too. That's one of the that's a real long one. As far as where to put the screws after you take them out, put them in a place where you're going to remember where they go. I'll tell you right now, the hardest part about doing a laptop repair, I think, is putting it back together. Finding out where all the screws go that you took out. So you just have to position them in a way that you're going to know where they go. Whatever system you want to do that, do it. Uncle Al in the chat room. I have not worked on this model before, no, so I've worked on the 15-inch model of this, which I thought this was going to be very similar, but right now it's not. So here's another screw. That's a normal size. I'm going to put it in that pile there. Okay, now what you want to do is find the spot where these two pieces are going to come apart. Hey, there it goes. And you just kind of go around the edges and you lift it off. And if it comes off clean, because we unattached all the ribbon cables, we got rid of all the screws, and we took the screen off. This should come up pretty easily. And it does. Okay, now what are we left here with? This is pretty interesting. This has a really big black cover on the top here. This is just a plastic cover covering the motherboard so no short circuits happen. This is a regular paintbrush. I got it at IKEA. I use paintbrushes to get rid of dust. As I'm working on the computer, get rid of dust. Mike, I see you in the chat. Are you doing a show today? Mike Smith? I just did this on a whim. I didn't know if I was breaking into anybody's shows here. I'm sorry if I am. Okay, good. Whew. Alright. Anyway, I'm going to pull out the CD drive now. Seeing how it's easily accessible. Comes right out. This is a pretty standard connection on a CD laptop drive. The thing that's not standard on laptop drives are these front panels. Under these front panels, they're almost all the same as far as size and connector. So you can easily replace a laptop drive, maybe with another laptop you have laying around. As long as the front panel, you could pull it off and put it onto another drive, you can put it in. You don't have to buy, what's this, a gateway? You don't have to buy a gateway laptop drive, is what I'm trying to say. They're all the parts are pretty standard, except for motherboards here. Alright, now here's a cool thing on this laptop. Check it out. Since we got the CD drive off, there's two wires here. And this is the power jack. This over here is the motherboard. And this is great because we can fix this power jack without doing anything else with the motherboard here. We don't have to remove this motherboard. We just unconnect this here. This is connected to power to the motherboard. Pull it out. And there's one little silly circuit board here with one screw in it. I unscrew that baby. Look at that. Power jack comes right out. Alright, now, it's going to probably might be hard to see on this camera, but check it out. Inside this power jack, you see the pin inside the power jack? See this toothpick? That pin is very loose in there, flopping all around. Usually on gateways, in my experience, with that pin loose, if you flip it around to the back, you'll see that the pin is completely broken on this end. Well, this power jack actually has a little shield there, a little piece of tape. Let me take that off and see what's under it. Interesting. I'm just trying to figure it out for myself here, guys, and I'll let you know what I'm doing. I'm just testing this pin to see if the pin, where the loose point in the this connector is. I'm going to grab the pin with a pair of pliers, then look at the back of the jack here and see if the pin is actually connected anywhere in here. Aha, okay, I see the problem. It's going to be hard to see, but check it out, I'll try. If you look at this pin, that pin that's going straight up there in the jack. You see that pin that's going straight up into the middle of the jack? That pin is not connected. It actually broke off of that center tip there, that center pin in there. That pin in there is actually snapped right at the point. Oops, I flipped it all the way around. It's actually snapped right at the point where that post that's coming up and going in the middle, right at the point where that post is going up and into the back of the jack. It's actually not connecting that pin. That pin snapped right at that point, right at the top part, right in there. So let me do a little bending here and see what we're going to do with this thing. Okay. Okay, here's the thing. What I'm going to do with this to do this repair. One might think that since that pin is busted and not connected to this post anymore, that you need a new power jack. But this is not what I'm going to do, and here's why. This tip in here, although it's loose, is not coming out. It's loose because it's not connected to the post in the back, but I can't pull it out. It's in there pretty tight. So what I'm going to do is just basically replace that post with a piece of wire. And if you use a piece of wire, it's much more advantageous for you because wire is bendable, guys. That post is not going to bend. That post is not bendable. If somebody jars that or hits it too hard, that post is going to break. If I replace that post with a wire, this guy could probably trip over the cord a couple times and the flexibility will be okay. So I'm going to remove that post and put a wire in. That's what I'm going to do right now. Just going to take a pair of pliers and bend the post. I'm actually just going to bend the post back a little bit. Okay, that post is bent back. I'm going to take a pair of, I'm going to take a file now. Here's a file I got at Radio Shack, a small little file, right? And I'm basically going to solder the back of that post, the post I just bent down there, I'm going to solder to the back of the tip and the power jack. So the first thing you want to do is scuff up the points you're going to be soldering things to. You just got to scuff them up a little bit so that the solder sticks to it. I'm just seeing how everything's going to fit together, guys. Just bear with me for 1 second. Okay. Alright, so back to filing. Just scuff up. You want to just scuff up what you're going to be soldering to. It's hard to tell. It's going to be real tiny here. I'm just reaching over the end. But you want to scuff up the points of contact. You'll see when I'm done. So that your solder sticks to it. Because you don't want the solder coming off, especially on these repairs, because you're going to have to do the whole thing over again if your solder comes off. In fact, while I'm doing this, I'm going to heat up my soldering iron. Hang on a sec. I just used a Radio Shack 15-watt soldering iron. I think this base was like a couple bucks too. It's like 15 watt. I think this is like $8. This was a couple bucks. So that's what I use for my repairs. Nothing special. Okay, while I'm waiting for that to heat up, does anybody have any questions so far? Any questions or comments? Is this video coming out okay? Are you able to track along okay? Nobody wanted to do the tech debate, Mitch, so I did this instead. In fact, I'm going to be doing these a lot instead of doing the laptop repair videos. Because laptop repair videos, it's taking a lot of work, man, honestly. And I am not like Steven Spielberg, so this will be just as good. And then once I record all these, I'll put them together in a package for everybody. But I might be selling that package, so that might not be free, but these are free for now. Okay, just going to scuff these up a little bit more. I really want to make sure my solder sticks, so I want to just scuff up all my connectors here. Thanks, Mitch. The next show should be how to replace capacitors. Here's the thing. Capacitors rarely are the problem with laptop motherboards. Only one time that actually happened where I replaced a capacitor on a laptop motherboard. Desktop motherboards, yes. And I don't usually replace capacitors on them. I just buy a new motherboard. But we could do that. We'll do whatever you guys want. You guys are the boss. Alright, well, also while we're waiting for the soldering iron to heat up, let me show you something else. Red wire. Black wire. We're not going to be using the black wire. We're going to be using the red. Because we only need to fix the positive point. Now the tip that we're going to fix is the positive connector. Grounding points are okay. You can look at the back there. Everything's fine. Everything's soldered to the motherboard just fine. The bad point is right there in the back. That tip is not making connection with that post. So I bent the post down, and I'm basically going to take a piece of wire and solder it from the end of that tip to the post. I'm going to take this red wire and just take a little bit off the end. This will be one end of the wire we're going to use. Twist it up a little bit. So now we got that. We're going to shorten that a little bit. When you're working with these wires with these laptops, see how I made it a little shorter? I don't know if you can see that. The metal part. You don't want to make the metal part, the part that you're cutting out there, too long, because if it's too long, then you have a higher chance of it short-circuiting with something else on the motherboard. So always keep these tips short as you can, and connected right to the spot you want to connect them to without them getting really stretched out. And we're going to cut the piece of wire, a short piece. That'll work right about there. So now we got this size wire here, okay? And then I'm going to expose the other side of the wire. Okay. So now we got a short piece of wire with two short ends exposed. Try to keep those ends short. You don't want to have a lot of wire exposed, like I said, because then you run the risk of short-circuiting something. Okay, now what we're going to do is what's called tinning, I believe. I'm not a soldering professional, so I don't know if that's the correct term, but what I'm going to do is basically put solder on the end of those two exposed points so that when we attach it to the tips and the power jack, that they stick. Instead of trying to just take this and glob and put it to the end of the power tip and then try to glob solder all over it. That's not what I do. I kind of paint the tips of each thing first and then just stick them together. So I'll show you. By the way, this is Radio Shack solder, 0.032 diameter, 2.5 ounce, 6040. That's the solder I use. It's model number 64-005E. You get that baby at Radio Shack. And I'm going to take the soldering iron, and I'm going to kind of paint the ends, to paint the exposed tips. Just paint them with solder, so there's solder on each of those tips. Okay, one side's done. I'll show you when I'm done with this. Get all the extra solder off your soldering iron. I use a piece of Scotch-Brite actually in there. And there's sandpaper under the Scotch-Brite. If I really have to get something off, I use the sandpaper. But if you use sandpaper on your soldering iron, you're going to wear down your tip. So I just use the Scotch-Brite. Now this might look the same to you, but both of those sides now have solder painted on them. So when I attach them to the point that I want to solder together, since there's already solder on the ends here, it'll make a connection. Now I do kind of the same thing with the power jack. I'm going to put solder on both of those ends and then put the wire in between. Another good tool, let me grab it real quick. Another good tool is, these are called helping hands. It's basically a little thing with alligator clips on it, so you can hold things without having four hands. For example, I'm going to put this in there in such a way that, there we go. Now it's sitting there perfectly for me to work on. This was called Helping Hands. One of them fell off, so it's actually now just a helping hand. I'll do this and I'll show you guys what I did. I'm just soldering here. This is going to come out good, guys. I could feel it. Okay, let me show you what I did. Those points that I was scuffing up earlier while the soldering iron was heating up, I just put solder on those points. I don't know if you could see. I'll try to do it in different angles here. I just put solder on both of those points. So now when I attach the wire, they should just go together real easy. So let me put the wire in there now. I'm going to put a little bit of solder on the soldering iron tip, and then since both ends are already soldered of what I want to solder together, it should all melt together real nice. Okay, soldering's done. Now check out what I did. It should all be not confusing anymore to you. I basically took a piece of wire from the inside of the tip and soldered it to the post that was supposed to be already connected to the tip. See how I kind of made a extension with using the wire? Now here's a cool thing about this. The inside of this tip is still loose, right? It's still kind of loose. And when you give it back to the customer, he might be like, what the F? You know, it's loose. It was loose when I brought it in. It's loose, but it's never going to break again because it's connected to a piece of flexible wire, which is connected to a post. So you could jiggle that tip all you want. It's just going to move this wire around a little bit. And if you made a good solder connection, the flexibility of that wire will take care of any jolt you give that thing. Now you just want to test and make sure your solder connections are solid. So you take a big pliers or something and to give your wire a little tug, make sure it doesn't come off. Make sure your solder connections are good. I'm pulling on that wire, it's not coming off. So I know my solder connections are okay. I don't know the gauge of the wire acid burn. This is it. It's like, I got it at Micro Center. It comes in like 10 colors. It's strong enough though to handle the load. Exactly, Al. It's better than the original design. Now you guys who are watching, were you able to follow that? You understand what I did? Because this is how I do almost all my laptop jack repairs if I can. They never break if you do this because that wire gives it flexibility. Now what I'm going to do is bend the post back into the original position. I'm going to bend it back because laptops are tight. Everything in there is a tight fit. And since I bent that post down a little far, there's a piece of metal that might come down when you put the laptop back together that might touch that. So I'm going to try to put it back in its original position. I'll show you what it looks like after I do that. Another great tool is a toothbrush for like cleaning up little areas that might have a little bit of metal, a little bit of solder stuck on them. Let's use a toothbrush. And then you'll see I bent that post back into its original position. Okay? This way that if there's anything that was going to make a short circuit with that, it can't now because this is the way it originally was. The only thing that's like sticking out a little bit now is the wire I attached. But we'll make sure that that wire doesn't interfere with anything. Plus it's shielded, so you're not going to worry about a short circuit with the wire. Alright, let me get the soldering iron out of the way. Put the wires away, we're done with that. Let's take this black shield that was on the back of this thing and put it back. There's a black shield there. Stick that baby back on. And because I took that shield off and it might have lost some of its stickiness, I'm going to put a piece of electrical tape as well, just to make sure. Okay, because you don't want this stuff that you did to interfere with anything else. See, now I got a red piece of tape kind of stuck around. It just wrapped it around the power jack. You don't want anything you did to touch any metal in the laptop and mess anything up. So, yes, Al, good idea. Acid burn, I'm glad you're pleased. I'm glad you're pleased with that. Acid burn, you're saying, oh, you're thinking of unsoldering the post. You could do that. You could unsolder the whole post, take the whole post out. But then you have to attach stuff to the circuit board. Okay, if I took the whole post out, I'd have to attach stuff to that circuit board. And this was easier. The post already has a good connection to the bottom. The post already has a good connection. Normally, acid, that post, and under these conditions where the laptop repair or the laptop jack is damaged, that post a lot of time falls right out. The post is actually busted. So actually most of the repairs I do have the post out because it mainly just falls out as soon as you open the computer. But in this case, I took advantage of the fact that the post was still connected. This way you have shorter distance to go. Anyway, it was just my call, but you can do it however you want. It would definitely work. Alright, let's put everything back together, guys. Get the solder out of the way. Wires out of the way. Toothbrush, paintbrushes, electrical tape, file. I like to work with a clean space. Okay. Got this back up here again. And this came out, I don't know where that goes. Oh, there it goes. Take advantage of the fact that you have this computer apart to clean dust out of it. Acid in the chat room asks, do most of those have plugs like that, or do you have to unsolder them from the motherboard? Well, to answer your question, most of the power jacks break in different ways, and I like to try to repair them to replace the whole jack, because a lot of times they already have a solid connection to the motherboard, but there's something else that's wrong with the jack. So you don't really need to replace the whole jack. The way I did this, it basically made this stronger in a way. I mean, it's like if we replaced the jack, the same thing could have happened to his computer as this one. But since we did the fix in this way, we added flexibility to it, which is what those connections need. They need flexibility because they get abused, so abused. So I guess to answer your question, different jacks break in different ways. It's a judgment call. I like to try to use the existing jack that's there and solder wires instead of replacing the jack with posts, because you want something flexible, not rigid. So it's different every time. Let me put this back in. And then it's all a matter of just putting everything back together. There's one little screw holding everything in here. That's in. This connects to here. Okay, what else now? Let's put it back. Try to put it back in the exact sequence you took everything apart. That screw looks a little strange in there like that, but I think this guy really did a number on this laptop. I mean, he took it apart. This screw usually holds in the CD drive. Now there's no screws holding in the CD drive. I don't know what he did. Okay, that's back in. Get the top now. Take this opportunity to get all the crap out of it. Normally I don't dust on top of this piece, but I'm just showing you for the camera. No screws on the floor, Al. I have really perfected my technique, but we'll see at the end. We'll see how many screws I have at the end. Now before I put this on, I want to make absolutely sure that everything is back where it should be, and that this is going to... See, here's the thing. See that there? That part, that whole big metal honking thing has to slide on top of the power jack we just fixed. That's why I didn't want any extraneous things coming out of the jack that we fixed, because it has to fit into there. So let's see if it fits. It's a little tight. It's a little tight. So let me just make sure we can get it in there without undoing everything we did. Okay, I don't want to push it. I don't think it's going to go. In that case, I am going to remove this piece. Just going to remove it. This is a piece that's stopping us. So I'm just going to take the little chunk out of this middle thing. It actually breaks off fairly easy, normally. Well, that wasn't good. It broke a little bit, but that's all right. So that's going to go in like that. So we want to make sure that we have plenty of slack there. So I'm going to break this off. Okay, just going to get any metal shards off that are still in there. I just kind of chipped it apart a little bit, which is perfectly fine. He didn't have any screws holding it in anyway, so one less screw is not going to hurt. It's a little different looking. I don't know if you could tell, but I broke a piece off of there. So now it's going to be able to slide right on top, hopefully. If not, we just break more off. And where does this go? There it goes. Okay, just screw that back on there. Perfect. Fits right on. Yeah, we're not going to buy a whole new plate. We don't need that part. Alright. Okay, let's just start screwing it back together now. The only screws holding this laptop together are the ones that he didn't know how to take out, so that's the only ones I could put back. I'm going to tell him too, if he can, bring us the screws back in that he took. This way we can put his laptop back together properly. Okay, make sure everything's snapped back together properly. Looks good. Put our padding under there. Yes, it's a magnetic screwdriver. What I do, Al, is... Where's my magnet? I actually have a magnet, and I scrape the screwdriver on the magnet to remagnetize it. I think it's almost a necessity to have a magnetic screwdriver when you're working on laptops. Big time. Acid burn. The guy who I buy my screens from used to be DVD Super 999 on eBay, but I don't really use him anymore. The prices of screens, guys, have come down so much that it's not even funny. It's like they used to be 150, 200 bucks. I've been buying them for like 80 bucks, 60 bucks now. I had no idea they would come down so much in price. So I don't always use DVD Super 999, even though he has never failed me once. Great seller, great quality screens. I used a company called Screens Fast on eBay. Got a good screen from them for like 50 bucks. It's ridiculous. I love doing laptop screen repairs. They're easy jobs, and you could get them done fast. You can make a lot of money if you do a lot of them. I will do a screen repair on one of the later videos. Okay, now I just attach those two ribbon cables back, that's all. And then I just scan the table here and see what's next. Alright, looks like the next thing is our screen. Sorry if I'm blocking the camera. Let me just get this done and then we'll be good. Okay, there's the two screws that hold the screen on. There's also two screws on the bottom of the screen that hold it on, but I do not have them because the customer took them out trying to fix it himself. So these are what we're going to have to work with for now. Now, always with screens, when I put laptop screen, the screws back on the screen, I always give it an extra oomph with a a big handled screwdriver just to get extra torque in there, because these screws are the screws that will make the screen flop around and be loose, and you don't want that to happen to your customers. Okay, now that we got that in there, let's put all the cables back for the screen. Sorry for the moment of silence here, guys. I have to concentrate sometimes. Okay. Okay, I'm just trying to make sure all the monitor cables are back in their normal spot, and then everything fits back the way it should. So I'm just concentrating on that. Okay, that's back in there. One down. And then this gets pushed back in there. Sorry if you can't see this, but I'm just putting cables back, pushing cables back. And let me see if this works out. Yeah, it looks good. So I wanted to make sure, right at the hinge, all those cables need to be back. There's 3 cables branching out of there. I wanted to make sure they were all flush the way they were when I took it apart, because when we put everything back on, if it's not flush, there's going to be a little lump there. And I want to feed, I'm just feeding the wireless cables back through this hole here to get back to the bottom of the system. See, the wireless cables come, oops, you can't see. Wireless cables come through the bottom there. Just wanted to feed them through. And then put the tape back that was holding them in place up here. Tape number 1. Come on. Tape number 2. Okay, so this is all flush the way it was when we got it. All the ribbon cables are connected again. The screws are in. Okay, it's pretty much ready for the keyboard to go back on. But I'm actually going to take this opportunity now to test something I should have tested a little bit earlier. And that is just to make sure before we put everything back together that there's no short circuit here. That our repair that we did worked out. So I'm just going to grab a voltmeter. I'm going to put it on beep mode, which is basically testing, testing, what's the word? I can't believe I forgot the word. We're testing for continuity. Continuity. I don't know if you can hear that, but it beeps when they touch each other. So I want to make sure if I touch the center pin of this machine and then touch a ground point on the machine, there's no beeps. So okay, you couldn't really see what I was doing, but there's no beep. So now I know there's no short circuit. That center pin is not touching anywhere in the motherboard, the ground point. So we know that it's at least it's not shorting out. I'm pretty confident that it's going to work, so I'm just going to put everything back together. This is what I call my confidence repair. I don't recommend doing that. It's basically when you think your repair that you just did is so good that you could put everything back together and just know it's going to work without testing it first. Without actually putting the power cord in and testing it. I tested for continuity just to make sure there was no short circuit. I recommend doing that. I recommend actually testing all along the way, but I like to do this with my confidence repair. Alright, let's see what we got here. We could probably put the keyboard back on now. Keyboard, ribbon goes right in there. Make sure it's in. Okay. Okay, just wanted to make sure that ribbon was in. It's in. Then you just flop the keyboard over. Push it down. This keyboard actually doesn't have any screws in it, so make sure all the ribbon cables are in. Everything's nice. Everything's straight. Everything is the way it should be. Yes, it is. Push that back in. Put our magical cover back on. Actually, we can have this flop over while we put this back in. Sometimes these ribbon cables are a pain in the butt. You get used to them. Okay, nice and smooth. Everything's back on. Alright, let's flip that around. Let's do the bottom now. Let's get this processor back in. Just make sure there's no dust in that processor. Make sure the processor's in, lock it up. Okay, all locked up. Put the heatsink back on with a newly cleaned out fan and heatsink. Make sure you connect the fan back to the spot on the motherboard it's supposed to go. Put that baby right back in where it came from. Okay, put the heatsink screws back in. Tighten them up like as you would tighten a tire, guys, same way. You don't want to put one corner in completely tight and then do each one like that because, like I said, you don't want uneven pressure on your CPU. That's your brain. Give that a couple turns. 1, 2, 3. Just a couple turns. 1, 2, 3. Couple turns. 1, 2, 3. Back to the first one. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Back to the first one. 2, 3. That's tight. 2, 3 is tight. 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 That's in there. Don't over tighten your heatsink screws. It's unnecessary. You don't want to break the motherboard. And what I like to do now is when I see putting all the components back in, I like to just dust them off. Put it back in. Put your antennas back on the wireless card. They just snap right on. Almost done, guys. I think 5 more minutes we'll be there. Okay, and this is the wireless thing. These always get dusty, these little plates. Just hit them with the old paintbrush. Clean them up. Put that back in. Now I notice we have these 3 little tiny screws here. They go right here. Might as well put them in now. They hold the magic plate, like I called it. The magic plate, the key. They hold that on. Okay, now I notice as I'm doing this, my hands got thermal grease on them from that stupid processor. See the gray or whatever it is? I'll tell you how to get that off. Purell. I love it. Squirt a little bit of that on there. Get a napkin or a towel or something. That's a lot better anyway. Anyway, that's the best way to take that stuff off that I know of, is Purell. Okay, let's put the memory back in there. Put the memory cover on after we dust it. Okay, let's put this big plate on that covers the CPU and the fan. Dust it off. And you might be asking why you keep using that same paintbrush. Doesn't the paintbrush get dusty? No, because every once in a while I just take it and I put it on the edge of my desk and I just do a shake and get all the I get all the dust out of it. One screw. 2 screws. 3 screws. Last is a hard drive, guys. We're almost done. Aren't you excited? I am. Okay, hard drive. Push that back in there. Push that back in there. It's in. Okay, screw that on top of there. Screw that in there. One more piece, one more screw. Look, no screws left. Who's the man? And now, let's take his power adapter. The moment of truth. Bad dog, I am not worried at all. Do I look worried? You can't see my face. You don't know how worried I really am. But dun, 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 dun. Do it with the battery out, because with the battery in, it might be misleading. First thing you do is you put this in, you pray that you don't see or hear a spark or smell something burning. Okay. Who thinks it's going to work and who thinks it doesn't going to work? I want to see in the chat room before I hit the power button. Yes or no? Yes, it works. No, it doesn't. You tell me before I press. I hope you guys are right. Here we go. There's a blue light. There's gateway. And that, my friends, is how to do a power jack repair pod nut style.